Okay.
I wanted to make it clear to everybody that any remarks by Debbie, Susan, or Daphna, any statements that they make this evening are statements made as private citizens and not as a member of the Board of Education. They are not speaking on behalf of the board.
Thank you. I want to thank the Princeton Charter School families and trustees for having us here in PTO. So thank you very much. Hi, my name is Debbie Braunfeld, and I'm running for re-election for a third term because I have the background and knowledge of our schools and know what it takes to support our students, staff, family, and community. I bring to the table 6 years of hands-on board experience combined with volunteering for the PTO and supporting my children as they attended Littlebrook, PMS, and PHS, graduating in 2015 and 18. I've served on personnel as chair, equity as co-chair, and on the operations and student achievement committee. I have an MBA, which taught me to always be listening to the concerns of our community and pushes me to ask questions about our budget process and making sure it is transparent and manageable so families can stay in Princeton even after their children graduate. I understand how the district works. There has been a lot of turnover in our administration, and having solid board members who can bring history, context, and guidance will help run the district. I know how important communication is internally and externally, and will continue pushing the board to be proactive versus reactive. I will never settle for status quo, and I will continue to speak my mind and push for opportunities that support our students, because one size of education does not work for everyone. Some of my top priorities are to ensure the health and wellness of our students. The pandemic left a huge impact on our students' education, social development, and mental well-being. I've approved more mental health services for our students so they can begin healing and learning again. I've approved a supervisor for elementary education so our educators can be supported to support our students. The budget is always a priority for me. Without funds, we can't do anything. Over 75% of our budget is salaries and benefits. We negotiated a 5-year contract with the teachers union, which will assist the district in budgeting going forward. I always want to manage a budget that still allows families to stay in Princeton. By starting the budget process earlier in the year, there's more discussion on what needs to be funded. Another priority is starting our ad hoc alternative revenue committee again to start speaking with local institutions about supporting the district. I plan to continue pushing for accountability in all district employees and ensuring hiring, training, and retaining diverse staff. I will continue to support improving the staff tenure and evaluation process to make sure we have the best educators for your children. Thank you.
Susan?
Hi, I'm Susan Cantor, and I would like to thank you for hosting this forum. I have lived in Princeton for almost 25 years and have had 3 children go through the Princeton Public Schools K through 12. After over 20 years as a VP of operations at an international trading company, I served on the boards of several nonprofits in town. But it is my volunteer work and in the schools, notably as PHS PTO president for over 7 years, that led me to want to run for the board 3 years ago. In that role, I gained a deep understanding of the issues facing our schools, and I have a great passion that our schools allow our students to reach their academic potential in ways that support and promote their mental health. I know that these are values that the Princeton Charter School community shares as well. I have been actively involved in supporting needed investment in maintenance in the Princeton Public Schools, planning for Princeton's growth in innovative ways, like schedule changes at the middle school, which increased the capacity by close to 200 students, as well as in the past, a parent representative to the Bell Committee, which changed the PHS start time and schedule to increase student engagement, health, and achievement. During my first term, issues around the pandemic dominated our board work, but I'm excited in the second term to focus on strategies with measurables that improve on academics, student wellness, and sound management of budgeting issues.
Thank you. Daphna?
Thank you, Roxy. Thank you to Bing and Larry and the Friends for providing this forum for discussion, and to the other candidates for participating, and for the families for attending. My name is Daphna Kendall. I'm running for re-election to the Board of Education. My family and I moved to Princeton in 2011 so that my children could attend the Princeton Public Schools. I'm a first-generation American. My parents immigrated from Eastern Europe. My mother is a Holocaust survivor. I went to public school, and it is because of the excellent school system, as well as standardized tests, that I received a merit scholarship to college and then law school. And I want to ensure that these opportunities remain available for all students who are just like me. I have 2 children that attended PPS. My son graduated from Princeton High School this past June, and my daughter is currently a 10th grader at the high school. I'm proud of the education my children have received, and I want to ensure that every student receives an excellent education. I'm running for a 3rd term with 3 main goals. 1, to maintain the educational excellence in our district. 2, to ensure that all students have opportunities to reach their potential. And 3, to manage rising enrollment in the district while being respectful of taxpayers. I believe that a good public education system that serves all students is a fundamental part of our society and democracy. The Princeton Public Schools provides an excellent education for most students. But there's work to be done, and I hope to continue to represent our community in making decisions in the best interest of the students in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Rita?
Hi, I'm Rita Rafalovsky. I'm a first-generation immigrant, parent of 2 children, ages 8 and 11. We've lived in Princeton since 2010. As a former economically disadvantaged public school student, I strongly believe that excellent public education has the potential to be the greatest equalizer. For this reason, my #1 priority is to restore our district's focus on academic excellence for all students. Over the years, PPS state scores and national rankings have fallen. On niche, our district dropped from 1st place in New Jersey to 3rd place, and nationally from 16th to 43rd place. On US News, our high school dropped from 94th spot in 2009 to 490th in 2022. State scores dropped as well. 76% of high school students took the state test last year. Our high school's math proficiency score has been 51% since 2015. By comparison, Montgomery is 70 and West Windsor 67. In the 2018-19 school year, our district participated in the state exam at above 95%. Our math proficiency was 64%, while Montgomery was 76 and West Windsor was 75. Princeton scored lower in math proficiency in almost all grades compared to Montgomery and West Windsor. For SATs, Princeton High School is neck and neck with our neighbors, but only 50 to 62% of students take the test, a group that is arguably not representative of the entire district demographic. This precipitous decline occurred despite the fact that our town's spend per student remains above most districts in New Jersey. While rankings are not the final grade, they are indicative of overall perceived quality. Homebuyers rely on school rankings to make purchase decisions, and our property values are tied to public school performance. The BOE represents the interests of the community, the taxpayers, and makes sure that the schools are well run. As a BOE member, I would work with all members of the community, PPS families, charter families, and the rest of the town. I would advocate the BOE to move toward a more goal-oriented relationship with the school administration, make data-driven, evidence-based decisions, and set measurable goals to track performance of major strategic initiatives, including in helping students with mental health. Additionally, my professional background in the financial sector and in management consulting positions me very well to course correct our district's trajectory. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lisa?
Yes, my name is Lisa. What set me apart from the other candidates? I'm not fortunate to have a perfect family. I'm a single mother, raising 3 children on my own, trying to provide the best public education I can afford it. I was involved in the school. I have been through public school with 3 children, and as a struggling single mother, I know the importance the education to a person in life. My top priorities as BOE officer is to take back pride. As Rita mentioned, all the tests Princeton district, it's been dropping the ranking. And I think that we must focus on students getting real education, not ideal logic. BOE should have policy of openness and physical responsibility. Lastly, we are here for all students and rest of us. I am promoting unity for all so we can all work together for better outcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The first question is for Susan. And so the families understand these questions were already given to the candidates, but I'm still going to read it anyway. Self-reflection is important for any organization. How do you think the Board of Education should evaluate PPS's performance? What factors should it consider? And what role do standardized test scores and rankings play in your evaluation?
Thank you. Obviously, coming out of the pandemic, there are a lot of factors that need to be considered as we evaluate our schools. The last 2.5 years have been unprecedented for both our teachers and our students, and have changed both the learning trajectories in the country and in our district as well. So when we look at our schools, we must look at it through the lens of what has happened in the last 2.5 years. We, as the Princeton Public K through 12, we have to evaluate our superintendent and the leadership based upon several factors. How are they with our youngest learners, our pre-K learners, who we've been lucky enough to expand the program through the state, and to try to make sure that our students are entering our schools on an even footing. We want to evaluate how our students feel in the schools. What's our student experience to ensure their wellness, to ensure inclusion, to ensure supports, to ensure they see themselves in our curriculum. And obviously, test scores are another factor that we look at in this evaluation. Some more importantly than others. One group that has been talked about is in the US News and World Report. They use a set of data that a lot of our high school students choose not to take. Districts like Milburn, Livingstone, and Princeton that have this opt-out culture have seen rankings drop based on this. US News and World Report also changes what factors they use to evaluate schools. So we need to use factors that are consistent, because they can lead you to make decisions. It is definitely important, and something I've been advocating for in our district in math we need to K through 8 make sure that our grade level enrichment program is much stronger, that we've identified who our learners are, both on the who needs more support and who needs that extra support. And in the high school, we want to look at how our students are performing. We have a wide variety of rigorous courses, 28 AP courses, many levels of research program, organic chemistry. So we want to see that engagement. We also want to see the engagement with extracurriculars. So we want to look at the whole person and make sure when a student leaves the Princeton public schools, they're prepared for whatever future they have chosen for their future path. Thank you.
Thank you. Daphna.
Okay, thanks, Roxy. So self-reflection is important. It's important for people. It's important for organizations. And I think we have to look at several measures to evaluate performance. How our teachers are doing. Do we have any difficulty recruiting or retaining staff? Test scores, including APs, SATs, ACTs. And rankings are also important, but they're also one measure and they can be subjective. Much attention has been given to the US News ranking, but their methodology changed in 2019. And in the rankings, we're right next to another high-performing district, Milburn. Even though we have a much more diverse community, 12% of our students are on free and reduced lunch. Standardized tests are also important, but we also have to be cautious there because participation has gone down because as a result of the pandemic, many schools have made tests optional, and some, like the University of California system, will not consider test scores at all. Other metrics to look at are graduation rate, attendance rate. And I just think that we have to take everything collectively as a grain, with a grain of salt. The ACT, our high school average last year was 29.8. The national average was 19.8. So if you want to look at that measure, which I would caution you not to, I mean, Princeton Public Schools is doing an excellent job educating our kids. And I also think anecdotally, are people having trouble selling their homes? I know there's a home on my street that has gone up 40% in 4 years. So I think anecdotally, people are still moving here in droves because they want to access our excellent school system and diverse community. Thank you.
Thank you. Rita?
Well, we definitely should be self-reflecting and assessing ourselves. And we do it all the time in other industries. We should be doing it in education as well. We should be considering our state scores year over year. Participation has been very high, above 95% for Princeton specifically, up until COVID. And then with COVID, according to what I received from the high school administration, our participation was 76%, and we've gone down year over year in many math metrics. We should be looking at SAT and ACT scores as well for measurement. Graduation rates we should be looking at. We should be monitoring student growth in terms of grades as well. Which colleges students are attending, although I do need to say that not all kids need to go to college. College is not for everybody. Participation in awards and external competitions like an Intel, Samsung, or creative writing. Those areas we should be looking at. And note that everything that I've listed is measurable. So we should be measuring ourselves. It should be quantitative and qualitative. We should be setting goals for ourselves, and they should be founded in best practices. We should be setting up initiatives to support our goals. For example, learning plans for each student, mentorship programs for middle and high school students, multilingual high school alumni network, assign school or community champions to kids who need them most, establish host families for new families to help them navigate. Thank you.
And Lisa?
As all the points that other candidates mentioned before, I really think that communication between parents, PPS, and BOE should be open and transparency. BOE should and must work with the parents and school personnel in order to benefit students. The test score is very important, but on the same talking, to balance the mental health of the student, also a top priority. And I hope that we can all work to improve for the students in Princeton School District. Thank you very much.
And Debbie?
Yes, thank you. I give the district an A in getting our staff and students back into class and extracurriculars for the 2022-23 school year with fewer constraints. Of course, we should do self-reflection. Could the board do better? Yes. Like our students, we are also learning every day. We've had 3 superintendents in 3 years. We are finally on a steady sailing ship with crew that is not jumping overboard. We know we need to improve our communications internally and externally. We know we need to have strong evaluation process of our staff. We know we need to support every learner that walks through our doors. There is a teacher shortage, but Princeton is doing okay. We have a strong relationship with our teacher union, and between the personnel committee and operations, we're always comparing salaries with local Mercer County towns so PPS can stay competitive and a place our faculty want to come to every day. I believe that standardized test scores give PPS a baseline of where we need to focus more multi-tier learning levels and ensure those not doing well as receiving extra help during the year or summer. Rankings worry me because not every standard, because they are not standard and they can change the factors they look at. Princeton population is not the same as some of our neighbors. We had 93% of our class of 2022 that are attending 2- and 4-year colleges. This is the type of information that I want to see and that I want to share with our community. Thank you.
The second question, it's going to go to Daphna. We'll start off with that one. And the question is, there's the concern that efforts to achieve equity in education lowers educational standards to the point that we are denying our children the education that they deserve. How do you achieve equity in education without diluting educational standards? Do you support AP, honors, or accelerated classes, or do you feel they should be eliminated? More specifically, do you feel that PPS's math curriculum should be reformed? And if so, why and how?
Okay, thank you, Roxy. So I understand the concerns that efforts to achieve equity may lower educational standards. That approach to equity will not be successful. You cannot take things away from one group and give it to another. But I state unequivocally that that has not happened and will not happen as long as I'm on the Board of Education. As I mentioned in my opening statement, I'm a first-generation American. My parents didn't have time to be involved in my schooling, and so it is because I was in an excellent public school district that heavily relied on standardized tests. For example, I took the PSATs in 7th grade, that I had the opportunities I've had. I received a merit scholarship to college. I don't want to take opportunities away from anybody. There should be no ceiling put in place for students, and there isn't. For example, my daughter is currently in 10th grade at Princeton High School. She takes 5 accelerated classes, including Mandarin, advanced math, and science classes, and she swims competitively as well. I don't want to take opportunities away from her. I don't want to take opportunities away from your son or daughter. Last year, the district added another AP class, Latin, and we offered 32 different AP exams. Many of our students take classes at Princeton University. I would like to see us bring some of those higher level courses into Princeton High School, and I would like to see the number of math courses offered increase, not decrease. Thank you.
Thank you. Rita?
Well, first of all, equity has more than one definition. As a district, we've not discussed what that is for us. And I think that this is something that we need to collectively decide. I do not believe and I do not support lowering educational standards or taking away P honors or accelerated classes. These classes are not for everyone, but for those who want them, they should be made available. In terms of mental health, it's absolutely vital, and I support that, the school playing an important role in that, in helping kids. In fact, my mother is a licensed social worker, my aunt is a psychiatrist. This is all very, near and dear to me. But at the same time, mental health is not a shield to hide behind to lower academic standards. We live in the real world where intellectual competition is real, just like competition is in sports. We need to focus on empowering our children, teaching them resiliency, mutual respect, and how to find the right balance between academic aspirations and mental health. But my definition of equity is, I believe in all kids, regardless of race, gender, and economic situation. I believe in equitable treatment and access to opportunities, and that all students should feel welcome and safe. I do not believe that outcomes will be the same. People's abilities, goals, aspirations, study habits, and interests vary, and we need to respect that. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa?
I am very disappointed about the BOE focus on social agenda instead of education. To most parents in the district, academic take the backseat of so-called BOE efforts to achieve equity in education lowers the standard to the point that we are denying our children the education that they deserve. We must assess the individual student needs so school can help every student to be the best they can be. I'm in support of AP honors, accelerate classes. I do not agree they should be eliminated. We can reform the math, but without sacrificing the standard of education. This need all the party come and work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Debbie?
Yes, thank you. I support academic excellence for every student that attends our district. Currently at PHS, we offer 28 AP subjects. And like Daphne said, Latin was just added last year. However, our PHS students happen to take 32 AP subject tests. That's 14% more subjects than we actually offer at our school. Our students are self-studying for classes that PHS doesn't even offer. 86% of our students who took the APs in 2022 received grades of 3, 4, and 5, and 162 PHS students receive AP Scholar with distinction. What I worry about, though, is that some of these students might have too much school load on their plate and not enough balance. But if students' demand is for more APs, honors, or accelerated classes, then I will make sure as a board member we offer those. I feel the math curriculum should be reviewed to ensure it is meeting the needs of our families and students. There's been a lot of discussion about math. We're not getting rid of calculus, and we review each subject every few years. This is a priority of the district. We even have students that have attended the university for math, and at one point we had so many over there, the university did push back and say that we had to teach the class in-house. PPS is a public school. About 18% of our students are special ed, 12% are free and reduced, and 5.3 are English language learners. I've always supported all PPS students, and I know that one size of education does not work for everyone. And I will never stop supporting classes, extracurriculars, music, and sports that will raise up all our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan?
Try not to repeat some of my fellow candidates' answers, but equity should not mean diluting our standards or reducing opportunity, but rather providing support so that all of our students can reach their academic potential. I 100% support having all students having access to AP classes, honors classes, accelerated classes, which meet the needs of many of our students. We, in particular, in the math program, in the same course, might offer 3, 4, or 5 levels to meet whatever need the student has. Some where there's more supports, some where they're excelling quickly. And as they advance through the high school, to have the opportunity to attend Princeton University for those select few that need that type of challenge. We have also in the high school developed some creative courses. We've expanded the research course. So this year there'll be over 100 students who then learn real world experience on how to solve problems. What's great about that class is students of all abilities have worked together to win very high prizes. And those are the kinds of experiences that our students truly value. So while I understand that people have had concerns about this, I can also assure you that our board is not looking to get rid of AP courses, but rather to expand our academic engagement and to make sure throughout the district that all our students are supported.
Thank you. The third question, Rita will provide the first answer. And the question is, it seems that over the past year, parents have had a lot of questions and concerns ranging from sex education, the math curriculum, and school safety. How do you rate PPS's communication skills and the quality of dialogue between it and the parents? What can the Board of Education do to improve communication between parents and PPS?
Thanks, Roxy. I would, unfortunately, I would rate it as poor. Communication has been really one way from PPS to parents. There's only a subset of the community voices being represented. I believe that the values between the BOE, the superintendent, and our community are not aligned. I'm not saying that anyone is wrong, but it just needs to be aligned among all of us. To improve, I believe we need to be listening better to the broader community. We need to expand the circle of listening. We need to define the terms equity in measurable ways and come up with a common definition for it. We need to define how we're going to measure achievement, and they need to be truly measurable. I believe that the current strategic planning process is hollow, that it should be based on our data, and it's not. It is no consideration of best practices. I suggest we pause it or restart with another vendor and get a democratic community representation on the committees. The board also writes local policies. They need to be written with community input. The rollout of the sex ed is an example of getting no input from the community. I think we need to implement anonymous student and parent surveys to see how and what kids are learning in class. And also public comment during Board of Education meetings. There needs to be more listening and responding as well, even if not during the specific meeting, but at least after the fact. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa?
Yes, regarding sex education, the state only mandate for secondary school student that is 8th grade and up. But the school allowing controversial materials seeping down to the K through 5th grades. I am sure the parents wants only the age appropriate material being passed to their young kids. I believe a PPS has no quality dialogue when they communicating with the parents because it lacks honesty. BOE have to improve the communication between parents and PPS. The most important things is openness and transparency. Everybody should answer to something. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Debbie?
Communication is key and starts at the board level. The board and Dr. Kelly created norms so that every member receives the same information at the same time. Also, transparency and communication go hand in hand. I've approved hiring communication consultants and increasing hours of in-house public information officers to ensure district information is shared. We publish via Facebook, Instagram, and our website. Emails are sent to the district, are sent to families from the district and the school. We do still have work to do. Communication is a two-way street, including feedback from the community. We welcome and invite community members to our committee meetings. Most are open for public discussion. Our board meetings have two opportunities for public comment. Again, I want to continue being proactive with information other than reactive. PPS is implementing a new sex education curriculum this year, which was approved by Governor Murphy. Parents can opt out their children and alternate activities will be given. PPS has excellent health and phys ed educators who will teach age-appropriate standards. For me, it is very unfortunate how a rumor was spread and spread and spread that PPS was eliminating calculus. And no matter what the board or district said, we could not change the narrative. As I said before, we need a review of our math curriculum, and we are not getting rid of calculus. For school safety, the district has been meeting with the Princeton Police and has a great working relationship. The district also has building monitors that will be receiving more professional development, and we hired a coordinator of student health and safety to focus on building safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan?
So I joined the board 3 years ago, and within 60 days of joining the board, I had one in-person meeting and then went to Zoom, which we kind of laughed, but I think it's a model of maybe some of the issues that have happened over the last several years. The fact that we have not been able to meet together, I think, has contributed to some of the issues that some of our parents feel. Before that, parents were in the buildings with their principals, in PTO meetings. They were, and that back and forth, I don't think can be replaced. When you're on Zoom, it becomes much more of a one-way communication. And I am personally excited to get back to more in-person and direct dialogue. I think that's when we're able to talk through and resolve these issues. I also, for 3 years, we've had 3 different superintendents. This is not ideal, and it certainly hasn't been ideal through the pandemic, but they each had 3 different styles of communication. And I think that led to perhaps different expectations around each of the superintendents. So I think now that as we develop more continuity, I will also agree with Debbie that our committee meetings are open to the public and have public comment. We publish what happens in each of those meetings. So I feel like by doing that, we're giving the opportunity for the community in smaller groups to meet with the board. And I hope that the community, including the Princeton Charter community, will take advantage of that opportunity. It's really something that many districts don't offer and something that we're proud of. So I believe in listening. I believe in, as we said earlier, looking in the mirror and saying we can do better. And I, hope in the next term to help foster better relations so that people can feel more comfortable, especially as we come out of the high stress that this pandemic has brought us.
Thank you. Daphna?
Thank you. Yeah, so I'll agree, and I said it before, and it's in my written materials. We need to do a better job with communication. We need to be more proactive. So, our committee meetings are open, and that it's not typical of neighboring districts. And we invite the public to attend. Our meetings are at a variety of times, 8 o'clock in the morning, and we have some at 7 o'clock at night. Our monthly board meeting is at 7:30. There's 2 opportunities for public comment. One is right at the beginning of the meeting, and one is towards the end. When I joined the board, there was 1 public comment, and it was at 10 o'clock. And the purpose of that was to discourage people from commenting. And so we encourage it. If there's a need, we always add another public comment. We want to hear from the public. There's a chain of command. You have to go for issues. It has to go to the teacher, the principal, the supervisor, the superintendent, and then the board. Frankly, I did hear about concerns about calculus. I have not heard one concern about except in these forums, about the sexual education curriculum or school safety. I would like to know what people are concerned about. I understand on the sex ed curriculum, it was passed by the legislature, signed by the governor. There was some push by LGBTQ groups to include more education about same-sex interactions. And so that is the genesis of a lot of the changes. As my colleague said, you have the opportunity to opt out. It's very clear. There's a Google form that was sent. Alternatively, just tell any teacher or the principal that you don't want your child to participate, and you don't have to. But again, it's a state mandate, and it's something that we have to offer, whether or not I agree with it or not. And frankly, on a personal level, I do think some of it's a little too much information. But again, I'm also a lawyer, and we have laws to follow, and it's very important that we do that. So thank you.
Thank you. The 4th question will be answered first by Lisa. Can you tell us about a decision that the BOE made recently that you disagreed with or voted against? Why did you think it was the wrong decision? And if there isn't a decision that you formally disagreed with or voted against, what Board of Education decision caused you the greatest pause?
I think the problem are follow. Number one, lowering math standards as suggested by the minor report. I know the incumbent being, emphasized, say that they are not going to change, but they also say they're going to evaluate. So I don't think any wrong with the previous math standards. And so that's why I am against this report. Number two, substandard statistic planning report from the outside consultant performance fact that I don't understand that we have a lot of talent within the school district. Why we have to go outside and spend money on the consultant that we could have it within parents, school personnel to come up with a better planning. Number three, personnel issue. The attempting terminate of a Princeton High School principal. That's one. And fail to retain science curriculum supervisor, and a lot of students and parents very disappointed with that result. So I hope we would have a better management and better outcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie?
Yes, at the June 2018 board meeting, I voted against the 10-year 2020-2030 send receive agreement with Cranberry. It did pass. Enrollment at PHS was increasing. I suggested a 5-year agreement so PPS could analyze its enrollment and facilities over the next few years. The state calculates what Cranberry pays. My main problem with the funding calculation is any referendum approved per the state model, Cranberry is only responsible to pay a portion of the interest on the loan. Princeton residents are on the hook for the loan and interest. Of course, Cranberry is not responsible for referendums for our pre-K through 8 schools. Since I've been on the board, both referendums did work at PHS. The funding model should be changed so Cranberry pays their fair share of any PHS referendums. To end a send receive agreement, a feasibility study must be done. The state mentions combining districts that are not K-12 to reduce taxes. The state should also start reviewing send receive agreements to determine if they are still cost effective for all taxpayers. Since the state calculates how much a sending district pays, the state should also start reviewing if there is a bigger tax burden put on the receiving district residents than they can handle. The issue of the Cranberry agreement will come up when PHS is overcrowded again. And with all the new housing construction in town, this will happen sooner than later. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan?
I'm gonna point to one that occurred 6 months after I joined the board, and it's not one that probably people think of often. But our district, when we were pivoting to remote learning, had to decide how to make sure that our students would be connected to their education. And it meant us debating whether to do one-to-one computer purchase for over $2.5 million. It was going to be based on a capital lease, so it was going to be budget neutral. But usually a project like this, a district would have time to study and really come up with a technology plan. But the pandemic put us in a situation that we had to take a leap of faith. So while we debated, it kind of made me for the first time feel what it is to be a BOE member and the responsibility you have to make sure everyone is educated. We decided to go ahead and do the one-to-one purchase in our district, do it in a capital lease, and it has maintained its budget neutrality. But as we look to go forward in terms of a technology plan and district planning, this is something that I think we're going to relook at and readdress and see how do we move forward. So I think sometimes you don't always get to have the runway that you want to make certain decisions. And that's what the pandemic showed me. I went in thinking my board service would look one way, and it looked completely different 2 years in. So I think being a board member, you have to always be thinking of both the taxpayer and your student. And that was a decision that I really wrestled with to make.
Thank you. Daphna?
Thank you, Roxy. So I'll just say that something that's really disappointed me was that our staff doesn't do a better job anticipating how the community will react to certain things. And for example, in some situations, and again, I'm speaking for myself tonight and not for the board. So for example, I'll take the math brouhaha. Okay, what happened was we had a consultant that had done work for us in the past, Eric Milo. He's used by every district in the state. He's a very he's been used by districts around the state. He will not be used by us again. But he put in some progressive language that's very popular in California, that we were going to get rid of calculus, or he recommended to get rid of calculus. Now, the staff should have reviewed that, and before it was even presented to a small group, discussed whether or not that's something that was viable here in Princeton. The issue was never brought to the board. The administration never suggested to get rid of anything. However, there was one or two slides in a presentation by a consultant whose job was to focus on middle school math. So I don't even understand how calculus was up for discussion when there were no high school teachers there. And it really created, a lot of discord in our community, and that could all have been avoided if and we have a lot of new staff, so we have to give them grace. But I think there has to be a more proactive understanding of what's being presented, how it will be interpreted, and what adjustments need to be made. And so that's something that, we've discussed now as a board with the administration, and we'll continue to discuss, because they don't do their work in a vacuum. And that's exactly what that was. That was a consultant making a recommendation. We have consultants making recommendations all the time. We don't accept them all. And, but they have to realize that the wider net that would cast, and they didn't. And so that's something that needs to be considered whenever there's a public presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Rita?
I agree, Daphne, with what you just said. I think it's interesting, though, that we've hired one consultant that believed in getting rid of calculus and equal outcomes. And we hired for strategic plan, we also hired a consulting company that also believes in equal outcomes. Again, this information is out there. The PowerPoints are available, and it's also caused another brouhaha because it's been out there. I don't believe in it, as I said. Maybe you don't believe in it either. So I hope we will not come, in our future. In terms of the strategic plan, that's what I believe is something that we need to be looking at very carefully right now. It's for the next 5 years. It's not what it should be. It reads like Any Town USA instead of for Princeton. It doesn't articulate who we are. It doesn't articulate where we're coming from. It only talks about where we want to be. So as if we're reinventing ourselves. It doesn't talk very much about academics. It's not at the forefront, which it should be, because that's what we do. We're a school. So there's no mention of dropping scores, as if it's not happening. Now, about those dropping scores, I just want to point out that there's been talk about demographics. We went down in state scores, even as the percent of low-income students dropped. So we need to take a step back and look at ourselves in the mirror and really see, do scores matter for us? For me, they do. Just because we already invested so much time in the plan, it doesn't mean that we should just continue going down the path, as was suggested in the League of Women Voters forum yesterday. We should do what's right for our taxpayers, what's right for our students first and foremost, and that's how we should be basing our decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Clearly, I didn't do very well in math, because we're going to go way beyond the 60 minutes, but let's just forge ahead. The next question is for Debbie. Most of the students at Charter go on to the high school. What investments or enhancements at PHS do you envision or want to see enacted, and how will it affect taxes?
Thank you.
1 minute.
The 2018 referendum added space at PHS for wrestling, dance, and fencing. It also added classrooms with new flexible furniture that is more conducive space to group projects and is getting really great reviews from our students and faculty. Because PHS is almost 100 years old, any work done can be very expensive and very time-consuming. The board has a long-term planning committee to look at our facilities and review what they are needed. I would want to do a full walkthrough of PHS to see if any rooms need updating, maybe like our science labs. We know we would love to have more flexible rooms for students to meet with groups and fill these rooms with again, flexible furniture, maybe even couches. We know we need more space to match our students' learning and studying habits. We just fixed the roofs with the last referendum. And yes, any kind of a construction will affect taxes. But like the roof referendum, we were able to receive state funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan?
So the first thing that we want to do at PHS is to, as our roofs finish, is to add solar panels and also continue some of our sustainability efforts that will, one, potentially either control our energy cost or hopefully lower it, which will hopefully benefit our operating budget. Also, as you know, because a lot of you send students on to the high school, our students are very concerned with sustainability issues. So this is something that's very important to our students. The other things we want to look at are in terms of security. We worked with our local police force this summer, and if there are recommendations that they feel we need to do, that would be the next place that I think we would look to Princeton High School. We have about $600,000 a year over the next 3 years that's rolling off our budget from the referendum from 2001. So there could be some room in the budget, and also using potential referendums, making sure we always are trying to take advantage of the 30% back. We all pay state taxes. And if we're going to invest in our buildings, we want to make sure that that money's coming back to us. I'll end with Cherry Hill just did a $353 million referendum that just passed. They got a lot of money back to their district. We're not going to do that. The charter community knows that we don't need the bells and whistles in our buildings. We need just good space to teach, even though I am jealous of your new space. So, ours is to keep our students healthy, to keep our buildings highly maintained, so that they will last another 90 years.
Thank you. Daphne?
Okay, thank you. So there's two things I'd want to do. One, like Susan mentioned, the police came in this summer and they walked all our buildings. And the 2018 referendum, we updated the entrances at all schools except for Princeton High School. And so what I would like to do, and it was recommended by the police, is to harden the entrances at Princeton High School, both the front and the back. And so, as Susan mentioned, we have a lot of debt coming off next year. So we would be able to do a referendum with, and the taxes would still likely go down. And what that would do is, right now, you walk into Princeton High School, we have security staff, but you're in the hallway, and that's not a best practice. So what we would do is install secure vestibules in the front with the tower and in the back at the PAC, and then just make sure that all the entrances remain closed during the school day to make sure that the building is as safe as it can be for kids. And another thing that I'd like to do, not building related, but we discussed it yesterday in one of our committee meetings, is for the district to pay for AP tests for all students, and that would increase participation. Last year, we had 3 African-American students take AP exams at the high school. And part of the issue is the College Board changed the timing of the tests. I mean, my own son missed a test last year because we didn't register in time. And if it's that's something the school could do for everyone, okay, that would really alleviate a lot of anxiety over that. Thank you.
Thank you. Rita?
So in terms of investments and enhancements, we definitely need to focus on goal setting with measurements, including benchmarks and targets informed by best practices. But putting all of that aside, as I've been talking about it for quite a bit, I'd love to see student mentorship and alumni programs for multilingual students. I'd love to have education about anti-Semitism and the Holocaust. I'm Jewish. And I came from a place where anti-Semitism was rampant. And currently 1 in 4 American Jews has experienced anti-Semitism as of 2021. This worries me. Third, I'd love to see an advisory board created of industry experts and leadership and leading academics to help us create enriching programs and opportunities for our students. So similarly, I know at the charter school, you have a similar type of board set up. I'd love to have that for the rest of the, for the district. And none of this will increase taxes. There are other ideas as well. I think we need to stop going constantly to the taxpayer. There's other ways we can get things done. There's grants. We can apply for grants. We can apply to Princeton University. We just have to build a business case. So, and my background, I've experienced building business cases. I've worked in financial services, and I can help with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa?
I'm different from the other candidates. I always think not everyone is college-bound material. Some students can learn useful skill to gain employment after high school. Education is not one size fits all. We should promote vocational classes and seeking government grants and corporate sponsorship without increase in everybody's taxes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The last question is for Susan. What should the Board of Education do to respond to the COVID-19 impact on education? How should we identify the students who have been impacted the most, and how do we get them back on track?
To be honest, this is one of the most important roles that someone elected in the next term is going to be dealing with. We're seeing our students are affected by both the learning online, the learning loss or learning interruptions, whatever we want to call it, but really by the mental health issues that some kids are now feeling since the pandemic. We've seen a decline in how, social skills, in how their focus is, how they can concentrate, study skills. And we, last summer, for those who experienced the most loss, we ran a robust summer school. But this is not going to be a short-term solution. We're going to need to be focused for the next several years to make sure each of these students, first, is in a position mentally, socially to learn. And second, we're continually providing the individualized supports that some of these students are going to need. And I think in a next term, it's going to be one of the biggest responsibilities of the PPS board. And I'm sure you guys feel it in your district as well, that this is a once in a lifetime challenge that we're all going to have to face.
Yeah, thank you. Daphna?
Thank you. So I'll just, echo what Susan said. I mean, we were all affected by the pandemic, but no one was more affected than our kids. And they spent 2 to 2.5 years in front of screens by themselves, not experiencing rites of passage that all of us have. And so now when they came back to school last year, there were a lot of behavior issues. There were a lot of mental health issues. Like behavior, for example, like fighting, which we had not really seen before. And so the board this year brought in outside help because as some of you might know, it's very hard to find mental health professionals in this area. So we brought people in to help our kids. And, I was reading an article in the Washington Post, and they said that the test scores went down like nationally so much that it erased 20 years of gain, and that it will take up to 8 years to remediate kids. And the kids who really need the help are the economically disadvantaged kids, which we have 12 of. So that's really what we need to focus on. And how we're doing that is the teachers are measuring. I'm not sure if the charter school did it, but we had start strong testing. That will be a good measure for us to make sure that we're identifying all the kids who need help. Thank you.
Rita.
So all true. COVID certainly did a number mentally on kids as well as academically. Having said that, some districts have recovered from COVID learning loss. In fact, Dr. Kelly was at a forum recently with one such superintendent that claimed that his district has recovered from COVID loss. I wonder how he's done that. I think it's worthwhile to reach out to superintendents like that and other boards for us to reach out to them to find out what they've done. I think this is a topic actually that's beyond COVID. We even if COVID never happened, and just in general, I think we need to have a list of at-risk students from teachers. And in terms of how they've been performing over time, and because the teachers should know how their students are doing, and we should have a list. We should have a learning plan for each such student that's at risk. We should assign adult champions or caseworkers to advocate for each of these children. We need to make sure that student has a tutor working with them. We need to refer students to community support services and talk to their parents. There's other things that we need to be doing, perhaps that's outside of the capability of our schools. There's it's a limitation we have that we can do only what we can do. And then we need to monitor progress. We need to monitor month over month, quarter over quarter, whatever the right amount is. But this is where I'm coming from. This is my logic. Thank you.
Lisa.
Helping the students that has been affected and assisting them with the class they need. Again, I want to emphasize communication is the key factor. We must talk to each other between students, parents, and the teacher. We all come together, solve the problem, and also provide mental health as long as the student need it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Debbie.
Yes. We do need to focus on mental health. I was at a meeting the other day, and 1 in 5 teens, which is 20% in the US, will experience a mental health challenge by the time they are 18. Because of this, I'm ensuring that we have funds, space, and staff to work with our students. And due to the staff shortage, I've approved partnering with a telehealth company that also offers bilingual services, which is an area that we are really struggling with to find educators for that. Our educators need to measure where each student currently is and where they likely should be if it was not for the pandemic. This will supply a baseline for every student, and each teacher can create a path for each student. A supervisor of elementary education was hired to support our elementary educators in meeting the missing learning of our students. All our students need support and understanding from their teachers. That, with less COVID in our face, even with less COVID in our face, some of these COVID issues are still coming with the students to school. Thank you.
Thank you. That ends the question portion of this. Candace, if you could give do your summations now. You have 1 minute, and the first one up is Daphna.
Oh, thanks, Roxy. Thank you to you, Bing, Larry, and all the families for attending and for the candidates for participating. I'm running for re-election to focus on 3 main issues: to ensure PPS continues its tradition of educational excellence, to expand access and programming to engage all students so that they have the opportunity to reach their full potential, and to carefully manage property taxes and the anticipated growth brought upon by the new construction in town. I believe I've demonstrated I've been a good steward of the public schools, and I commit to continuing to be a good steward for our schools if reelected, making decisions always with the students at the forefront. I have always considered the perspectives of the Princeton Charter School as a board member, and I was instrumental, just ask Larry, in improving the relationship between PPS and the charter school. I respectfully request your support for my reelection to the Board of Education. Thank you.
Thank you. Rita?
My personal immigration story, the fact that I'm a parent to 2 young children, my priorities for our district, and my professional background are what set me apart from other candidates. I learned English at age 8. My parents brought my sister and me to the US so that our lives are filled with opportunities instead of persecution, labels, and demagoguery. I want the same freedom and opportunities for all our children. Immigration was difficult and we were economically disadvantaged for many years. Kids and circumstances vary, of course, but I understand the struggles and have practical ideas about programs that can help such children. My number one priority is to restore the district's focus on academic excellence for all students. We must understand why rankings and scores have fallen in order to come up with a plan that will put us back on track. I worked in banking and consulting for over 16 years. I have the passion, skill set, and tenacity to work with PPS leaders to define measurable district goals, to evaluate performance, and establish accountability. I will be happy to work with any of the incumbents, and I hope that you will work with me and appreciate my varied perspective. Groupthink is limiting and tension is difficult, but it also gives birth to progress. Our district needs progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa?
First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity. I think change the direction of the BOE. It's my objective, and hoping the transparency between BOE and everybody else. Of course, the focus on the student is still the top priority on my list. And for students getting real education, it's very important. I wish BOE should also have open policy and unity. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you. Debbie?
Yes, I want to thank again the Princeton Charter community for having us here tonight. It was wonderful. I'm running for my 3rd term as a school board member, and I will continue to bring my tenacity, my knowledge, my love for public agent, and my support for students when hopefully start up in January. The budget is a top priority for me, and it always has been. And I just wanted to comment that we've gone to Princeton University for many years for funds, and we've gone to the other local institutions. We apply for many grants, and our pre-K program actually was able to expand due to state grants that we've received year after year. I will continue pushing for better tenure review, staff accountability, proactive communication, hiring, training, and retaining diverse staff, academic integrity and excellence, transparency in budgeting and referendums, and support services for all our learners, and safe and secure facilities. Thank you again for having us, and please vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan?
Hi, yes, I also would like to thank the Princeton Charter community for inviting us and for having this dialogue. And it's something, that I hope we don't just do around elections, that we can find other ways that we can continue this conversation. I ran for the board 3 years ago because I care deeply about public education and the Princeton public schools. During my time, I have always tried to be an open and welcoming listener, tried to bring positive change to the district, and understanding that although I love the school, I want them to always strive to do better. And so it is that reason that I'm run for a 2nd term. As I said, my 1st term didn't look like what I thought it would. And I am very proud to have served the district through the many decisions that we had to make during the pandemic. But I'm even more excited to start a new term, to be able to focus on both the academic achievement of our students, ensuring that that their mental health is protected and supported, and to continue my role in the long-term planning of the Princeton Public Schools so that we are able to, in a fiscally responsible way, handle the growth that is coming in our town. Thank you.
Well, I wanted to thank all of the candidates for their time and for their thoughtful answers to our questions. At the very least, the questions should signal to everybody what a hard job it is that that you're running for. And I know we wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank
You're
you.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Thank you.
I echo that, and I
Thank
put
you
some
very
links
much.
in the comments of people in the chat if you want to copy those. And thank you all once again.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.